The Masks is a fantastic episode in the Twilight Zone. Coming during a time when the show is nearing its end and dealing with budget and time restraints, Rod Serling and director Ida Lupino proved that even during its fifth and final season, the Twilight Zone could still deliver some of its greatest offerings. The episode tells the tale of Jason Foster, a wealthy man who has very little time left on this planet, and the miserable family members who want nothing more than collecting his immense wealth once he's passed. Except seeing how this is the Twilight Zone, we know all is not what it may seem. Jason Foster, played by longtime character actor Robert Keith, in what is his final role before passing in 1966, just 2 years after this episode's debut, is visited by his doctor, Dr. Samuel Thorne, who has the unfortunate news of telling Jason he doesn't have much time left. Be it days, weeks, hours, it's not a matter of if, but when. Interestingly, when Robert passed away, one of his pallbearers was actor and future president Ronald Reagan.
But the fact that you're still here is a tribute to an inner strength that most of us don't even possess.
An inner strength, or as some would call it, a stubbornness to cross over to the other side. But it's not so much that he doesn't want to pass, but more so that he has some unfinished business he needs to attend to before he does. Before the doctor can leave, he runs into Jason's family. His daughter Emily Harper, played by Virginia Gregg, a woman who is either a huge hypochondriac and constantly worries about being sick, or revels in the attention she receives when she is. Regardless, even though her father is dying, she seems more concerned with how she's feeling than him. Her husband Wilfred Harper, played by character actor Milton Seltzer, who is more interested in money than any dying family member. And to make sure the audience knows of his intentions, Wilfred pulls the doctor to the side just to make sure his father-in-law is in fact going to die.
The old boy is dying. Good afternoon.
They've also brought along their son, Wilfred Harper Jr., a brutish man with peanuts for brains and sociopathic tendencies to harm small animals, giving him at least one of 3 traits that coincide with the McDonald triad, which is generally a giveaway for a serial killer. And their daughter Paula Harper, who spends more time looking into a mirror at herself and hoping to be hooked up with a young man than caring that her grandfather is passing away. Even though they feign happiness to see Jason when he wakes up from his nap, this old man knows what it is they all really want. It's Mardi Gras in the good old New Orleans, and instead of going out and enjoying the festivities, Jason has put together a little celebration for his ungrateful family. A celebration that will require the wearing of some rather interesting masks. As his family prepares for a nice meal, Jason has his butler Jeffrey bring the masks to his study so they can be ready for the celebration. The Harpers better hope these masks don't turn their heads into bugs. Anyways, Paula complains because she'd rather be out enjoying the Mardi Gras festivities. Instead, she's stuck inside with some crazy old kook who wants her to wear a mask and do God knows what. Unbeknownst to her, her grandfather hears the entire thing, but he already knows just what kind of people he's dealing with. I don't know what it is about death and inheritance that turns people into such monsters, but it's far too common. The family has seen their new masks and aren't exactly fond of them, but these are no normal set of masks. They were crafted by an old Cajun, and if Scooby-Doo on Zombie Island has taught me anything, it's that all Cajuns practice dark magic and may or may not be werecats. As part of their little shindig, Jason wants everyone, including himself, to wear one of these masks. Each mask representing the antithesis of each person in the room. Now Jason's family is kinda dumb, because he uses this to basically roast each of them.
The face of a self-centered coward, a gutless flab, in contrast to your intrepid valor.
Wilfred's mask represents greed and avarice, the complete opposite of him. Emily's mask representing self-centeredness when she herself is anything but. Paula's mask reflecting vanity and narcissism when she herself has such a warm heart. And Wilfred Jr.'s mask, which represents that of a dullard and imbecile. I haven't seen a roasting this bad since Vincent Price was put in his place by his wife.
Don't let the ghosts and the ghouls disturb you, darling.
Darling, the only ghoul in the house is you.
The family members all despise their ugly masks and refuse to wear them, but Jason lets them know that unless they wear their masks until the stroke of midnight, then they won't see a dime from his will, besides enough to buy a train ticket back home. Wilfred waits no time in throwing his on because he really wants that money. The rest follow suit, and in just a few hours, we'll all be very rich.
I can't stand this thing on my face another minute. I'm gonna take it off. I don't care.
Only 5 minutes left to go and the family are all prepared to take their masks off. Imagine giving up a lifetime of wealth because you can't wear a papier-mâché mask for 5 more minutes.
Are you feeling weaker, Father?
At last, a note of hope in your voice, Emily.
Even as Jason's body and spirit begin to fail him, he can't help but tell his family just how awful they all are. They all seem to be excited that his time is drawing near, and he lets them know it. Anyways, the clock strikes 12 and now the family can claim their prize. Jason's body finally gives up, but he achieved what he set out to do. His family may be excited that their grandfather is finally gone, they may be excited that now they own everything he ever owned, but the last laugh is Jason's.
What's the matter? What's the matter with you all?
The masks were cursed, or something, and now each and every family member's face has been changed and morphed into a grotesque visage of just how ugly they were on the inside. Although some didn't seem to get it as bad because Wilfred Jr. already kinda looked like a pig monster. The Masks is a fantastic episode that I feel compliments Eye of the Beholder quite a bit. While Eye of the Beholder dealt with how outer beauty is perceived, The Masks represents inner beauty. The family all pretend to care about their grandfather, and the masks brought to the surface just how truly awful each and every single one of them was. It didn't matter if he was on his deathbed, because all they wanted was his immense wealth. Even his own daughter had to keep bringing up her own illnesses, or perceived illnesses, so she could gain sympathy from a man who was literally moments away from dying. William Tuttle worked on the makeup effects for the episode and also did the effects for Eye of the Beholder. And if you look at both episodes, the makeups are kinda similar. Although in Eye of the Beholder, the brows, nose, and lips are much more exaggerated or turned up. Still though, I can see similarities in the themes and makeups between both. The masks were also apparently inspiration for the characters Lock, Shock, and Barrel from the Henry Selick directed The Nightmare Before Christmas. The Masks is a very quiet episode. There isn't a whole lot that goes on, and it's mostly just people talking. There's very little music, but what is there works to drum up some suspense for the reveal of the masks and the characters' faces at the end. The episode overall might not have worked if it hadn't been for the direction of Ida Lupino. Ida was no stranger to the Twilight Zone, having appeared in the 4th episode of the series, The 16mm Shrine, but she would be brought in as the one and only woman to ever direct an episode of the original Twilight Zone. These days, that might not seem like a huge accomplishment, as female directors are the norm, but back in the 1950s and 1960s, it was a big deal. She didn't really enjoy being an actress and would fight studio heads if she felt a script was beneath her or poorly written. This strong will brought upon her the wrath of Jack Warner, who suspended her from Warner Brothers. Back in the day, studios basically owned you, and you did anything you were told, but Ida was different. During her suspension, she watched how directors and editors worked, and that's when she got the bug for directing. She formed a small production company at the time with her then husband Collier Young to produce low-budget fare that would focus on social issues that other production companies feared to touch. In total, she directed roughly 8 movies and 30-ish episodes of television. She was one of the early pioneers for female directors, and I think she deserves some more recognition than she gets. Her contribution to a dying series was a breath of fresh air, and I definitely recommend you checking this one out if you haven't. But what are your thoughts on The Masks? Is the episode as good as many people claim, or is it overrated? Let me know down in the comments. Anyways, that's all for today, but please return as we take another look into the Twilight Zone.